Every day you wake up, you have a choice. You can stay comfortable in the life you've always known, or you can step into the unknown and demand more from yourself. And I'm here to tell you, the life you're living right now is not permanent. Who you are today is not the person you must be tomorrow, but that change requires one critical step: letting go of the old you. The old you is holding you back. It's the version of yourself that makes excuses. It's the version that plays small, that convinces you that you're not worthy, not ready, not capable. And let's face it, you've carried this version around for years, letting it dictate your decisions, your relationships, your income, your happiness. But here's the truth: who you've been does not determine who you will become. Your past is a reference point, not a prison. Imagine for a moment, what if you could shed all the doubts, all the fears, all the limiting beliefs that have been whispering in your ear for years? What if you could wake up tomorrow and step into a version of yourself that is unstoppable, that is bold, that is capable of achieving every goal you've ever dreamed of? That version is waiting for you, but you must be willing to release the old version of yourself. Letting go of the old you means breaking patterns. It means confronting the habits that have kept you stuck. You cannot create a breakthrough while clinging to what is familiar but unfulfilling. The old you will fight for survival because it thrives on comfort, on safety, on the familiar pain. But the new you thrives on growth, on challenge, on becoming more than you ever thought possible. And here's the key: the only way forward is through. You must face the discomfort, embrace it, and step past it into a new identity. You see, transformation is not about learning something new. It's about unlearning what is holding you back. Every limiting belief you have, every story you've told yourself about what you can't do, every voice in your head that says, "You're not enough," that's the old you. And you get to replace it with power, with confidence, with certainty. You get to redefine what is possible for your life. But here's where most people fail. They cling to the old you because it's safe. They tell themselves, "I'll change someday. I'll try tomorrow. I'll do it next year." And life slips by, opportunities pass, dreams fade, and all the while the old version of you whispers, "See, I told you it's too late. You're stuck." But it's never too late. The moment you decide to let go, the moment you take ownership of your life, you ignite a fire inside that cannot be extinguished. Letting go is also about forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. It's about releasing the guilt, the shame, the mistakes of the past that have kept you tethered to the old you. Every setback you've had, every failure you've endured, every heartbreak you've suffered, they are not chains. They are lessons, and once you embrace them, you free yourself to step into a new level of power and possibility. So how do you let go of the old you? First, you must make a decision. Decide that you refuse to be defined by your past. Decide that the pain, the fear, the limitations will no longer dictate your life. Second, you must take massive action. Transformation is not passive. It requires energy, it requires commitment, it requires doing things differently than you've done before. Third, you must surround yourself with forces that lift you up. People, experiences, knowledge, and environments that challenge the old patterns and reinforce the new you. And finally, you must believe in your new identity before you see it. Because belief precedes reality, you cannot become who you want to be without first seeing yourself as that person. When you step into the power of who you truly are, the world bends to match your energy. Doors open, opportunities appear, your old limitations dissolve. Today, I challenge you. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I living as the person I was or as the person I can become? Are you holding on to what's comfortable, or are you willing to let go and claim your greatness? The old you may fight, it may resist, but the new you is stronger. The new you is unstoppable. And the only way to honor your potential is to release what no longer serves you and step into the life you were born to live. The old you was never the real you. It was a version shaped by fear, by limitation, by circumstance. The real you is waiting, bold, capable, courageous, and alive. And all it takes is one decision, to let go. Recognizing the old you is the very first step to transformation, and it is far more powerful than most people realize. The moment you can step back and honestly observe yourself without judgment, without excuses, you begin to see the patterns that have held you captive for years. These are the habits that run in the background of your life like software you didn't consciously install. The fears that whisper doubts every time you consider stepping beyond your comfort zone. The old stories you tell yourself about why success is for other people, why happiness is fleeting, why you don't deserve more. Recognizing the old you is not about self, criticism, or guilt. It is about clarity. It is about understanding exactly what you have been carrying, what has been influencing your choices, and what has been quietly keeping you from stepping into your true power. Too often, people walk through life unaware of how much of their behavior is dictated by outdated beliefs, by the subconscious programming instilled by family, society, friends, or even previous failures. The old you is like a shadow that follows you around, convincing you that you are stuck, that you cannot rise, that the world is bigger than your ability to conquer it. And the first step to freedom is shining a light on that shadow. You must be willing to sit with yourself, to examine your habits, your reactions, your thoughts, and ask yourself the brutal question: is this really serving me? Is this helping me move toward the life I want? Or is this holding me back? Most people avoid this question because the answers are uncomfortable. They are painful. They require admitting that the very things you have relied on to define yourself, to feel safe, to navigate the world, are actually limiting you. But the truth is, discomfort is a necessary companion on the path to growth. Recognizing the old you means noticing the excuses you make to avoid responsibility, the ways you rationalize staying small, the patterns of procrastination, the relationships that drain you instead of elevate you, the repeated cycles of self-sabotage. It is the awareness that every time you settle, every time you compromise on your dreams, every time you allow fear to dictate your actions, you are feeding the old you and starving the new you. And here's the reality: the old you is not gone just because you wish it away. You can't simply pretend it doesn't exist. It lives in your mind, in your routines, in your comfort zones, in your language, in the stories you repeat over and over again. That's why recognition is so crucial. When you see it clearly, when you name it, when you map it out in detail, you strip it of its power. It loses the ability to unconsciously control your life. You can literally begin to take ownership of yourself in ways you never imagined. Recognizing the old you also means observing the emotional triggers that have kept you stuck. Think about the moments in your life when you acted out of fear, out of shame, out of a sense of not being enough. Those moments are not random, they are part of a pattern. The old you thrives on these patterns because they give it familiarity, a sense of identity, even if that identity is limiting. And here's the critical insight: every time you notice a reaction, a thought, or a habit that no longer serves you, you have a moment of power. That moment is where transformation begins. It is where you can say to yourself, I see you, old me, and I am ready to change. Recognizing the old you is not just a mental exercise. It is a visceral, emotional, and spiritual process. You feel it in your body when you become aware of the tension, the fear, the doubts that have been silently shaping your decisions. You feel it in your heart when you confront the dreams you abandoned because you believed you couldn't achieve them. And you feel it in your soul when you realize the incredible potential you've been ignoring. This recognition also forces you to become brutally honest about your life. No more rationalizing why things are the way they are. No more blaming circumstances or other people. No more telling yourself stories about luck or fate. The old you wants to hide behind excuses, but the new you wants clarity, responsibility, and freedom. And the path to freedom always starts with seeing things as they really are. One of the most powerful tools in recognizing the old you is reflection. Take time to ask yourself questions like, what am I tolerating in my life that I shouldn't be? What fears are dictating my decisions? Where am I repeating patterns that don't serve me? Which relationships, habits, and beliefs are keeping me small? When you answer these questions with brutal honesty, you create a blueprint of the old you, a map of the limitations, fears, and patterns that have shaped your past. And when you have a map, you can start to chart a new course. Another critical aspect of recognizing the old you is understanding the stories you tell yourself about your identity. Most people operate from a narrative they've accepted as truth. I am not good enough. I can't succeed. I'm too old, too young, too inexperienced, too unprepared. These stories have no inherent power other than what you give them. By recognizing the old you, you start to see these narratives for what they are. Illusions, mental constructs that have no authority over your future unless you let them. And as you recognize these narratives, you begin the process of rewriting them. You also begin to recognize the old you in the form of comfort zones. The old you loves familiarity, even when it is painful. It prefers what is safe to what is possible. It clings to routine, to predictability, to the known, because the unknown feels threatening. Recognizing the old you means noticing where you are settling, where you are avoiding growth because it is uncomfortable, and where you are allowing the familiar to keep you small. And here's the most empowering truth. Awareness alone is enough to start change. Once you see the old you for what it is, you cannot unknow it. You cannot go back to blind complacency. Every recognition, every insight, every honest observation is a step toward liberation. And liberation is the birthright of the human spirit. Deciding to change is one of the most powerful moments in a person's life because it is the moment when you take responsibility for your destiny. The old you thrives on indecision, on procrastination, on telling yourself that someday you will become the person you want to be. But that someday never comes until you make a conscious, unwavering decision that today is the day you refuse to be held back by your past, by fear, or by limitation. Decision is the spark that ignites transformation because without it, no action has power, no habit has energy, and no dream has a pathway to reality. When you decide, you are no longer a passenger in your life. You become the driver. You are no longer waiting for external circumstances to change or for someone else to give you permission. You claim authority over your life, your choices, and your outcomes. And that claim, when made fully and consciously, has a force that cannot be stopped. But here's the critical insight. Making a decision is not a casual thought. It is not simply saying, I want to change someday. It is a commitment that penetrates your mind, your body, and your emotions. It is a declaration to yourself and to the world that the old you no longer has control, that the patterns of limitation will be replaced with patterns of power, growth, and possibility. And when you make that decision, you begin to rewire your entire nervous system because your body and mind respond to the certainty of choice. Indecision creates anxiety, hesitation, and fear. Decision creates energy, momentum, and clarity. That is why people who succeed are not necessarily more talented or luckier. They are decisive. They refuse to let uncertainty paralyze them, and in that refusal, they step into their potential with unstoppable force. Deciding to change also means confronting the discomfort of growth head on. Change is not comfortable. Letting go of the old you, stepping into new habits, adopting new mindsets, and pursuing bigger goals all create resistance. Your mind will fight you, your emotions will push back, your old patterns will scream for survival, and in that moment your decision becomes your anchor. It is the point of commitment that keeps you moving forward even when everything inside you wants to retreat to what is familiar. Every decision to change is a declaration of your values and priorities. It says, I value my growth more than my comfort. I value my potential more than my past. I value what I can become more than what I have been. And that declaration has the power to reshape your identity because identity is built on decisions. Every small choice you have made has led you to this moment, and every bold decision you make from this moment forward determines the trajectory of your life. The decision to change is also the point where you take responsibility for your outcomes. It is easy to blame circumstances, luck, or other people for where you are in life. The old you thrives on blame because it keeps you small and powerless. The new you understands that while circumstances may have influenced you, they do not define you. Your choices define you. Your commitment defines you. And when you make a decision to change, you claim 100% responsibility for your growth, your success, and your fulfillment. This responsibility is not a burden. It is liberation. When you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life, for someone else to validate you, or for some future moment to arrive, you release the chains of dependency and step into autonomy. Decision is the bridge between intention and action. Most people have intentions, dreams, goals, desires, but without decision, those intentions remain fantasies. When you decide, you create a mental and emotional framework that propels you to action. It gives your mind a target, your heart a purpose, and your body a direction. And action flows naturally from clarity of decision because your mind is no longer divided, no longer distracted, and no longer negotiating with excuses. Making a decision to change also requires you to confront fear. The old you is terrified of stepping into the unknown because the unknown feels unsafe. But the new you understands that growth is always on the other side of fear. Decision is the antidote to fear because it shifts your focus from "what if I fail?" to "what must I do to succeed?" It transforms uncertainty into possibility, hesitation into momentum, and doubt into courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is taking action despite fear, fueled by the certainty of your decision. Another critical aspect of deciding to change is clarity of vision. You cannot truly commit to change without knowing what you are committing to. The decision must be accompanied by a clear image of who you want to become, what you want to achieve, and how you will measure success. The more specific and vivid your vision, the more power your decision holds because your mind and emotions align with that clarity. Without vision, a decision is weak. With vision, a decision becomes a force of nature that propels you forward relentlessly. Deciding to change is also about alignment. Every area of your life, your relationships, your habits, your thoughts, your environment, must reflect and support that decision. You cannot decide to change and continue feeding old patterns that contradict your new direction. The decision demands action, alignment, and consistency, and while the process is challenging, every step you take after that decision reinforces the new identity you are creating. Decision is also a catalyst for momentum. Once you decide, everything in your life begins to shift because the energy of your commitment ripples outward. Opportunities appear, people respond differently, and your mindset begins to expand. The old patterns may resist, but they cannot withstand the force of a decisive mind. Every moment of hesitation diminishes momentum, but every moment of commitment strengthens it exponentially. Finally, deciding to change is an act of self-respect. It is telling yourself that you are worthy of growth, success, and fulfillment. It is declaring that your dreams matter, that your potential is real, and that you are done settling for less than you deserve. That decision becomes the foundation of every habit you form, every action you take, and every outcome you create. And once you make that decision, the old you loses power because you have consciously chosen a new direction, a new identity, and a new life. Taking massive action is the single most important step between the life you dream of and the life you currently live, because without action, even the clearest vision and the strongest decision remain nothing more than ideas floating in your mind. Action is the vehicle of transformation, and massive action is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Most people talk about change, they plan for it, they even feel motivated to pursue it, but they fail to act with intensity, consistency, and urgency, the old you hesitates, procrastinates, and waits for perfect conditions. The new you understands that the perfect moment will never arrive. There will never be a day when all obstacles disappear, when fear is completely gone, when the path ahead is fully safe and predictable. Massive action does not wait for certainty. It moves through uncertainty with courage, focus, and determination. When you take massive action, you send a signal to your subconscious mind that you are serious, that you are committed, and that you will no longer be defined by excuses or limitations. Your energy changes, your presence shifts, and your momentum begins to build. Action creates results, and results create confidence, which fuels even more action. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. But massive action is not about being busy. It is about being purposeful. It is about focusing on the tasks, behaviors, and habits that generate real results, that move you closer to your goals, and that align with your new identity. It is easy to confuse motion with progress, to fill your day with activity while avoiding the difficult steps that truly lead to growth. Massive action cuts through that illusion. It is focused, intentional, and relentless. Every step you take must be aligned with the person you are becoming, the life you are creating, and the standards you are setting for yourself. Taking massive action also means embracing discomfort. The old you resists challenge, resists change, and seeks to remain in familiar territory. But growth is never comfortable. The path to success is lined with obstacles, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. Massive action requires pushing through these barriers, leaning into the discomfort, and refusing to let fear dictate your decisions. Every time you take a step despite fear, despite doubt, despite resistance, you build momentum and reinforce your commitment to your new life. Massive action is also about speed. Many people delay, overanalyze, and hesitate, thinking that the perfect plan or the perfect timing will make all the difference. But the reality is that imperfect action taken now is far more powerful than perfect action postponed. Every day you wait is a day the old you retains control. Action is the antidote to stagnation, and speed amplifies results. Taking massive action requires you to break tasks into steps that are manageable yet impactful. It is about creating a system of consistent, high-leverage behaviors that compound over time. Massive action is not reckless. It is strategic. It is about identifying what will move the needle in your life and committing fully to doing it over and over again until it becomes unstoppable. Another key aspect of massive action is accountability. The old you often hides from responsibility, avoids scrutiny, and excuses failure. The new you embraces accountability because it accelerates growth. When you hold yourself accountable, you create pressure, urgency, and alignment with your goals. You ensure that your actions are consistent and measurable, and you force yourself to perform even when motivation wanes. Massive action is also fueled by belief. The greater your belief in your potential, in your vision, and in your ability to overcome obstacles, the greater the action you are willing to take. Belief amplifies energy, courage, and persistence. It transforms hesitation into movement, doubt into momentum, and fear into fuel. Taking massive action means committing to a level of intensity that most people are unwilling to sustain. It is about doing what others are not willing to do, taking the steps that others avoid, and holding a standard of excellence that stretches your limits. This level of action is not a one-time effort. It is a consistent pattern, a lifestyle, a commitment to showing up every day with energy, focus, and purpose. Massive action is also about resilience. You will encounter setbacks, failures, and moments when it feels easier to quit than to continue. But massive action is not defined by avoidance of failure. It is defined by persistence, adaptability, and the refusal to let temporary defeat stop your progress. Each obstacle becomes a lesson, each setback a teacher, and each challenge an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Taking massive action also requires clarity of purpose. You must know exactly what you are striving for, why it matters, and what success looks like. Purpose fuels energy, direction, and persistence. Without purpose, action becomes scattered, inconsistent, and uninspired. With purpose, action becomes unstoppable, precise, and impactful. Massive action creates momentum that compounds over time. The more you act, the more energy you generate, the more doors open, the more opportunities present themselves. Each step forward reinforces your belief in your ability to succeed, and each result achieved fuels further action. Momentum is the hidden force behind every extraordinary achievement, and it is created through relentless, massive action. Taking massive action also transforms your identity. Every action you take reinforces who you are becoming. When you act like the person you aspire to be, when you consistently take steps aligned with your highest vision, you begin to internalize that identity. Action becomes the bridge between the person you are today and the person you are destined to become. Massive action also requires a commitment to mastery. It is not enough to act. You must act with excellence, discipline, and focus. You must continually refine your skills, expand your knowledge, and elevate your standards. Every action taken with intentionality, discipline, and focus accelerates your growth and creates results that are powerful, lasting, and transformational. And finally, taking massive action is about breaking free from the chains of the old you. The old patterns, the old fears, the old excuses, they all lose their power when you act decisively, consistently, and with intensity. Every step forward erodes limitation, builds confidence, and strengthens your identity. Massive action is the ultimate tool for transformation because it converts thought, desire, and decision into results, momentum, and identity, and it creates a life that is not just dreamed of but actively lived. Surrounding yourself with growth is one of the most underestimated but powerful factors in creating a transformed life. Your environment, the people you interact with, and the experiences you immerse yourself in shape your beliefs, your habits, and ultimately your results. The old you often surrounds yourself with comfort, familiarity, and people who reinforce limitation rather than possibility. You know the ones, the voices that doubt, the people who warn you not to take risks, the friends and colleagues who settle and tell you to settle as well. These influences keep you small, keep you anchored to old patterns, and subtly sabotage your growth without you even realizing it. The new you, however, understands that growth is contagious and limitation is contagious as well. If you want to step into your highest potential, you must deliberately choose the influences that elevate you, challenge you, and inspire you to become more than you are today. Surrounding yourself with growth begins with people. Seek out mentors, coaches, peers, and friends who have achieved what you desire or who are committed to growth themselves. Their energy, insights, and standards become a mirror and a benchmark for your own life. You will unconsciously begin to model their habits, adopt their mindset, and elevate your own standards. Being in the presence of growth-minded individuals shifts your identity because it changes your expectations of yourself and your perception of what is possible. You must also recognize and eliminate toxic influences. People who constantly complain, criticize, or dwell on limitations can drain your energy, distort your mindset, and slow your momentum. The old you tolerates these relationships because they feel familiar. But the new you understands that every relationship either expands or contracts your potential. Choose to invest your time and energy in relationships that support your evolution, that challenge your complacency, and that inspire your courage. Surrounding yourself with growth is not just about people, it is about your environment as a whole. Your surroundings, your home, your workspace, the media you consume, and the culture you immerse yourself in shape your beliefs and behaviors. If your environment reinforces scarcity, negativity, or fear. It will anchor you to the old you. But when you intentionally design an environment that inspires, motivates, and challenges you, your daily experiences become a catalyst for transformation. This could mean decluttering your space, seeking out inspiring books, podcasts, or videos, attending seminars, or creating visual reminders of your goals. Every detail of your environment should serve the new version of you, reinforcing your identity, values, and vision. Growth also comes from experiences. The old you seeks comfort and avoids challenge. The new you seeks experiences that stretch your limits, that push you outside your comfort zone, and that expose you to new ideas, skills, and opportunities. Travel, learning, networking, volunteering, and immersing yourself in unfamiliar situations are all ways to accelerate personal growth. These experiences expand your perspective, develop resilience, and create new neural pathways in your brain that align with higher-level thinking and capability. Surrounding yourself with growth requires intentionality and vigilance. It is not passive. You cannot assume that because you desire change, your current environment will naturally support it. You must actively choose, curate, and sometimes create the influences around you that propel you forward. This may require difficult decisions, walking away from toxic relationships, leaving a comfort zone, or saying no to familiar routines that no longer serve your evolution. Another critical aspect of growth-minded surroundings is accountability. Surround yourself with people and systems that hold you to a higher standard, that celebrate your wins but also challenge your excuses, and that refuse to let you settle for mediocrity. Accountability accelerates results because it removes the safety net of complacency. The old you hides behind excuses and rationalizations. The new you thrives in an environment that pushes, challenges, and inspires. Growth-minded surroundings also amplify motivation and energy. When you spend time with people who are ambitious, resilient, and purpose-driven, their energy becomes contagious. You find yourself thinking bigger, acting bolder, and pushing further than you ever would alone. Motivation alone is fleeting, but when it is reinforced consistently by your environment, it becomes a sustainable force that powers your transformation. Surrounding yourself with growth also means seeking feedback, learning from mistakes, and embracing constructive criticism. The old you resists feedback because it feels like judgment. The new you understands that feedback is a gift, a roadmap for refinement and improvement. Surrounding yourself with people who can provide honest insights, challenge your assumptions, and stretch your perspective is essential for continuous evolution. Moreover, growth surrounds you when you immerse yourself in ideas, knowledge, and strategies that elevate your thinking. Read books that challenge your assumptions, attend workshops that teach skills you lack, and expose yourself to perspectives that expand your understanding of the world. The old you avoids learning because it is uncomfortable and requires effort. The new you sees learning as a lifelong opportunity and a necessity for breaking free from limitation. Surrounding yourself with growth also involves modeling success. Observe those who have achieved what you desire, analyze their strategies, adopt their mindset, and emulate their habits. When you intentionally surround yourself with examples of excellence, you create a blueprint for your own achievement. Your environment becomes a mirror of the possibilities available to you, and your actions naturally align with higher standards. Finally, surrounding yourself with growth is a statement of your commitment to transformation. It signals to your subconscious mind, to your behaviors, and to the universe that you are serious about becoming more, doing more, and achieving more. Every person you choose to engage with, every habit you adopt, and every environment you cultivate reinforces your new identity, strengthens your resolve, and accelerates your momentum. The old you will resist, it will complain, it will attempt to pull you back toward familiarity and comfort. But the new you will persist, create, and thrive because you have deliberately surrounded yourself with forces that expand your potential, challenge your limits, and empower your greatness. Believing in your new identity is the final, most powerful step in letting go of the old you, Because belief is the engine that drives action, fuels persistence, and transforms possibility into reality. The old you is built on doubt, fear, and the stories you have told yourself about your limitations. It says, you can't, you're not ready, this isn't possible. The new you understands that every action you take, every habit you form, every decision you make is only as effective as the belief you hold about yourself. Belief precedes reality. If you do not truly see yourself as capable, powerful, and deserving, no amount of strategy, effort, or discipline will create lasting change. Believing in your new identity begins with imagining yourself as the person you want to become. It is about creating a mental image so vivid, so real, that it starts to influence your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. See yourself waking up every morning with energy, clarity, and purpose. See yourself facing challenges with courage, turning obstacles into opportunities, and achieving goals you once thought impossible. The more detailed, emotional, and sensory rich this vision is, the more powerfully it embeds itself in your mind and guides your actions. Belief is strengthened through repetition and reinforcement. Every time you affirm who you are becoming, every time you act in alignment with your new identity, every time you celebrate small wins, you are reinforcing that belief. Your brain begins to accept this identity as real, and your old limitations begin to dissolve. The process is both mental and emotional. You must feel the power of the new you in your body, in your heart, in the energy you carry into every interaction and decision. When belief is fully internalized, it drives behavior automatically, shaping the way you speak, the way you move, the way you respond to challenges. One of the most critical aspects of belief is the ability to dismiss the old stories and doubts that arise. The old you will resist change by questioning your capability, pointing to past failures, or imagining worst-case scenarios. These thoughts are natural, but they are not truths. They are echoes of an identity that no longer serves you. Believing in your new identity requires you to consciously reject these old narratives and replace them with empowering truths. I am capable, I am deserving, I am unstoppable. Every time you choose to act from belief rather than fear, you weaken the old patterns and strengthen the new identity. Belief also requires consistency in action. It is not enough to think positively or visualize your success occasionally. Belief is forged through repeated action aligned with your new identity. Each deliberate choice, each courageous step, each commitment followed through is a declaration to your subconscious mind that this new identity is real, valid, and dominant. Over time, the frequency and intensity of these aligned actions build unshakable belief. Another critical factor is surrounding yourself with evidence of your new identity. Seek out examples, mentors, stories, and experiences that confirm what you are becoming. Every success, no matter how small, every skill mastered, every relationship improved. Every challenge overcome becomes a proof point that your new identity is real and attainable. Belief is also about embracing imperfection while remaining committed. The old you often waits until conditions are perfect, until you feel ready, until external validation arrives. The new you understands that belief grows stronger not in comfort, but in action, in persistence, and in overcoming obstacles. You act as the person you want to be even when you don't feel fully ready. And in doing so, you cultivate confidence, resilience, and undeniable proof of your capability. Believing in your new identity requires alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Your words must reflect your vision, your emotions must fuel it, and your behaviors must embody it. When alignment exists, your identity is reinforced at every level of your being. Misalignment creates doubt, hesitation, and internal conflict, but consistent alignment builds certainty, momentum, and unshakable confidence. Another key element is self-talk. The dialogue you carry in your mind shapes your perception of who you are. The old you engages in self-criticism, negative comparisons, and limiting beliefs. The new you deliberately monitors and shifts self-talk toward encouragement, empowerment, and certainty, Phrases like "I am capable," "I can handle this," "I am worthy of success" are not just feel good affirmations. They are signals to your subconscious mind that you are claiming a new identity. Belief in your new identity also demands patience and persistence. Change does not happen overnight, and the old patterns will resist. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when progress seems slow. But the new you understands that belief is not conditional on immediate results. It is rooted in a deeper certainty about who you are becoming. Every moment of perseverance reinforces that belief, creating resilience and fortitude that cannot be shaken. Visualization and emotional rehearsal are powerful tools for embedding belief. By mentally and emotionally experiencing yourself as the person you want to be, seeing the success, feeling the confidence, living the actions, you train your mind and body to respond as if it is already true. Over time, the gap between imagined identity and actual behavior shrinks until they merge seamlessly. Belief in your new identity also empowers decision making. The more you believe in your capability, the bolder your choices become. You take risks that the old you would avoid, seize opportunities that were previously dismissed, and approach challenges with confidence rather than fear. Belief expands your capacity for action and reinforces the habits and behaviors that create extraordinary results. Finally, believing in your new identity is a daily, conscious practice. It is not a single moment, but a continuous choice to see yourself as more than the old limitations, more than past failures, and more than what others think is possible. Each day you wake up and act in alignment with your new identity. You deepen your belief, solidify your transformation, and move closer to the life you were meant to live. Belief is the invisible force that connects thought, emotion, action, and result. It transforms potential into reality, fear into courage, and dreams into achievements. And once you fully believe in your new identity, you operate from a place of certainty, power, and unstoppable momentum, leaving the old you behind and stepping fully into the life you are destined to create.